Hey there, I'm Lance.
I'm Sam.
And we are Love to Hate.
And today we're taking a look at Kabuto Sumo by BoardGameTables.com.
Kabuto Sumo is a dexterity game in which you are going to be pushing around your little wooden pieces that represent different wrestling beetles, sumo wrestling beetles. You have one in particular that you have to keep on the arena floor, the tree stump log. And if you get pushed off, then you're eliminated. So this is a game that is all about pushing things in the right angle, and it is player elimination. So that is something you need to know about this game in particular. Let's take a look at it down below. We'll show you how it works, then we'll come back and share our thoughts on this one. All right, so here's Kabuto Sumo on the table here. Let me show you guys the components and how this dexterity game works. You are going to have this elevated platform board here with lots of wooden pieces. These are solid wood pieces here. And the arrangement that you're going to have on the platform here, which is a log stump. I know you can't really see the artwork on it because of these pieces, but you are going to have a different arrangement of those pieces depending upon the number of players in this game. And as you can see, in a 4-player game, you will have 2 teams, 2 people on each team, as you can see right there. So the setup here changes a little bit depending upon the number of players. Each player is going to be represented by a different beetle, and so you have 2 different types of character cards here that you can play with. You have the Junior League, which the Junior League is going to have you start with a certain particular inventory, which the pieces are going to be different depending on who you pick to play with, and you can see there what you've got going on with it. The regular characters, though, are going to have you have special actions that you can do throughout the course of the game. And many of these are going to have you paying pieces to an opponent, give you something special during setup, or perhaps you are going to just simply be able to do special things such as this green mist here, pushing 2 of the smaller green discs at the same time. Normally you are only allowed to push 1 disc at a time, and so you can see here what some of these do. If you'd like to take a closer look at all of the components in this game, please watch our unboxing video. You can click that eye in the top right corner and it will take you to that. So anyhow, that is what you have here. Now each player is going to be represented by one of the colored beetle sumo pieces here, so such as the blue and the purple one. And then they're going to take the corresponding cardboard token, put that next to your character card to remind you who you are. And players are then going to receive a starting hand of pieces, and that starting hand of pieces is going to be that you get 2 of these smaller green pieces here and 1 of the medium-sized pieces, and that's what you start the game off with, unless there are particular startup changes that you have depending upon your character. On your turn, you're going to use one of your pieces that you have and place it on this push platform. And this push platform, you are going to pick where you want to angle it off of the main board. And you can take any spot around this circular board. And so I might be right there. And then using 1 finger, I'm going to just simply push this piece straight onto the board until it is fully on the board. Once it is fully on the main board here, see I've crossed that line, then that is all I'm going to do. I'm not going to continue to keep pushing it forward, and then I will move the platform away and it will be the next player's turn. Now if anything falls off the platform, so let's say that it's the next player's turn and they're going to go right here as well, and they'll just push this and I'm fully on the platform. If anything falls off like it did right here, then I get to claim these 2 pieces and they go into my personal pool. And the idea here is that this sort of represents your endurance, your energy that you have left in the wrestling match. If ever you start your turn and you don't have any pieces left, then your sumo wrestler is exhausted and you have submitted, you are out of the fight. And so you will lose that way if you don't have any pieces. What you are ultimately trying to do is you're trying to push the other sumo off the platform. So if I'm the purple player, I want to push this blue one off. If I'm the blue player, obviously I want to push the purple one off. And so you will push strategically getting the right angles, trying to push someone off the platform. And once there is only one person left on the platform, then that is going to indicate that that's the end of the game. And if you are the last person left on the platform, you are the winner. Now, certain player abilities do allow you to get these unique, obscure shaped pieces here that you can use to continue to push things. And as you can see, they're going to push things in unique ways using the different shapes that you have here. And it's going to really kind of mess with the player board how these pieces work. They all work in different ways, and it's pretty cool to see how they work. These smaller ones you'd think would not do much, but they actually can do quite a bit. And so that's how that is. And that's how you play Kabuto Sumo. Let's go back up top and share our thoughts on this one. And we're back, and now you're seeing some gameplay footage of Sam and I and Sam's sister doing a 3-player playthrough. And real quick, I do want to mention that as you can see, we are playing on top of a Lazy Susan. That is not something that is included in the game. Don't get your hopes up, but it is something that we would highly recommend doing, is getting a Lazy Susan if you're going to try this game out, or if you already have one, playing on top of that, as you're going to want to move around the board, and rather than you getting up and moving, make the board move. So Sam, first impressions, you see that there's a ton of wooden discs of all different colors and shapes, and you have this elevated board that looks like a tree log, tree stump. What was your first impressions?
I really wasn't sure what to think about this game. There's not a board, it's just the tree stump. So
Right.
I didn't know what type of game this was, and I couldn't have guessed if you had asked me to.
Okay. Yeah, it's very intriguing. It's definitely something that almost doesn't look like a board game as much as it does look like maybe art or just kind of a table decoration. And it's got that aspect that you see in arcades and casinos with the push the coin kind of mechanism where you're pushing something to push other things to get them to fall. And so it's definitely a different kind of game. Now, we do have another game that has that same idea in it. Via Apia, which is an older game, has that same idea of pushing something onto a platform to knock other things off of the platform. So this isn't the first time I've ever seen something like this, but that's all this is in this game. You just have that one idea. So Sam, let me ask you, that being really the only thing that's going on in this game, how'd you feel about that?
I mean, it's easy to understand. I think it's a great game because of that, for a non-gamer, because
Okay.
I mean, there's one rule really. A couple more to how to play, but for the most part, you just need to understand how to push. So it makes it very simple. At the same time, I thought it sounded a little too simplistic.
Okay.
But it wasn't. It's fun. It's not as, I mean, it is simple to play, but it's not boring.
Right. Yeah, and I think I would agree with that. It is something that doesn't require a whole lot of strategy. In fact, I would almost say that there's not really much strategy at all in this game. It's more so if you're good with angles and geometry.
Yeah.
This is a game that might work well for you, because it's all about kind of trying to see in your mind how different pieces are going to move when you push on them from different angles with different other pieces. Mm-hmm. And the special pieces that you get depending upon what beetle you are, that's where this game really shines, in my opinion.
Yeah, that was definitely a very unique aspect to this game.
Yeah, because so many of them, you look at it and you're like, well, that's not really going to make that much of a difference. Yeah. Or maybe you think the exact opposite, like the giant cactus. You think, well, that thing is huge. It's going to cause a lot of chaos on the board. And it oftentimes does the exact opposite of what you're thinking. The little tiny ones can really stick it to the pieces and push them in a straight line, whereas the bigger pieces don't make much happen. So really interesting aspects to the game there. Sam, let me ask you, fun factor wise, is this a game that you felt was pretty fun?
It was fun. We played with my sister, so we played with another non-gamer, and she enjoyed it as well. I will say, after a while, it seemed to overstay its welcome just a little bit.
Okay.
I was kind of, after a little bit, I was like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
Because when you are just literally doing the same thing each time, it gets to the point where you're like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
Or at least for me.
And I think I might agree with that there were several turns there in the middle portion of the game, beginning to middle portions of the game, where it felt like you pushed something on the board and then nothing really happened. And then the other person would push something on the board and not much would happen. Maybe one piece might fall off, but really nothing might happen. And I understand the idea with that. What's happening is, you need to load the board up to cause chaos happen at another part in the game. And when that chaos does happen, that's where the fun really starts to happen. You just have to work to that point. And sometimes that can get a little tedious.
Yeah.
So I agree with you there. I think maybe, I don't know if the board was like just a millimeter smaller or whatever, make the pieces a little bit larger. I don't know if that would change anything and really kind of ramp things up. I'm sure they really balanced that out and did their research on how to make that happen as best as possible. Just that's kind of what happens in this game. Now, I do want to also throw out there, I did play this with our kids using those Junior League beetles, the ones that don't have the special player abilities. And that's great with kids. I think this is something that our kids can play all on their own, and they don't need any explanation. They can just open this up and go, and they're going to have a good time with it. As an adult, I don't know that I would ever want to play with those Junior League ones. I don't know that I want to play with my kids with those Junior League ones. I would be telling them, hey, let's increase the difficulty a little bit. Let's play with these more advanced ones, because it really is just too simple. Having just those standard pieces, you don't get the excitement that you get when you're playing with that claw-shaped piece or the leaf-shaped piece. That's really, I think, where the game really kind of shines. And so for me, I'm always going to play with those advanced beetles, and I want to try them all out and see, how they all work against one another in different battles. So some interesting things there with that. Let's get into our pros and cons for this, Sam. Kabuto Sumo. What are some of the things that you really enjoyed about this game?
I mean, I did enjoy the simplicity of the setup and the rules in general. It was pretty easy to understand. It was a fairly fast game, and it's a unique. It's a unique type of game.
Okay.
We don't have a lot. I mean, you mentioned one, but you're usually not going to see a board that small, and then that type of
idea or mechanic of
mechanic.
Pushing things off of a board. A lot of dexterity games are all about stacking.
Yeah.
And this is kind of the opposite. You want to destroy.
Which does make it easier for kids as well.
Right, for sure. Let's talk about your cons for this game. What are some of the cons you have?
I think my only real con is that it overstays its welcome a little bit. I
Okay.
think you're just, the middle portion can just get a little tedious.
Sure.
But I think that also depends on the people you're playing with, the beetles you have, and other, aspects like that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, one thing that can kind of add to that tediousness is if you got somebody who's just spinning the board around or getting up and moving around and around the board, and I don't want to go here, and then let me measure this angle. And if you have somebody who's very calculated with that and analysis paralysis, that can just kind of amplify that tediousness of it. That being said, at the end of it, when you have your piece hanging on the edge and you're like, oh, will it come back around to my turn so that I can save myself?
Yeah.
That's pretty fun. When you've got them on the edge and they're hanging on for dear life, that's pretty fun. The highs in this game can be really high.
Yeah.
It's just you have to work to get to that point.
Yeah.
So, scale of 1 to 10, love to hate. What are you going to give this one?
It was fun. It was an enjoyable game. I just don't know if it's one that I'm going to request to bring out very often, so I'd probably give it a 6.9.
Okay, 6.9. I think that's very fair. For me, I'm in the same ballpark, same range. Again, you know, the highs are really high with this one. The kids really enjoy it. And it's one that I would really kind of keep to show people. If, you know, all they've ever really known about board games is roll and move, or, you know, the classic kind of games, and they've not really seen the modern board gaming. This is one of those games that I could get out on the table and say, hey, let me shock you with something.
Yeah.
Because this has got really cool table presence.
Yeah.
And so for that, I'm probably going to give it about a 7.2, 7.3, somewhere in that ballpark. So that's where I land on this particular game. Is it one that you would recommend playing with non-gamers?
Yeah, I definitely think it's a great one to choose for non-gamers.
Okay, well, there you go. That is Kabuto Sumo from BoardGameTables.com.
Make sure to like and subscribe and push that bell button so you get notifications of all our new content.
I'm Lance.
I'm Sam.
And we are Love to Hate, where we try to bridge the gap between gamers and non-gamers. We'll catch you next time.